So, you're pretty good at Mahjong now. You've mastered the base game and you know your way around the table. You're ready for a bigger challenge. If this isn't you, and you're a beginner who wants to learn the basics, check out this other video I made. If this is you, well then my friend, you've come to the right place. Now, we're gonna learn about points. Just in time for the Lunar New Year, so that you can impress your family or your in-laws, and maybe even win some money off of them. Let's get started. So what are points, and how do you get them? Points, or fan, as we say in Cantonese, is determined by how difficult it is to achieve your hand. An advanced game would usually have a points threshold for you to meet or surpass in order to win the game. The most common threshold played in Hong Kong-style Mahjong is 3 points, known as Sam Fan Hei Wu. This means you must acquire at least 3 points in order for your completed hand to win the game. There are various tiles, actions, and hands that'll help you gain points. Detailed in this very comprehensive and useful Wikipedia article. I'll link the English version below. Points are cumulative, so you can always combine these hands, tiles, and actions to increase your total haul of points. A lot of information is packed in and rushed through in this video, so if you want to, take a moment to replay and pause throughout. Let's start with some of these actions. There are 6 different actions that can directly lead to points, and of course, as mentioned, you can always combine these actions to get more points. First off, we have the concealed hand, or mun qin qing in Cantonese. If you're able to complete your hand without taking any discards from other players except the winning tile, then you will gain 1 point. Another way to get a point is to self-draw the winning tile. This is known as jimo, and it's one of the best ways to win. You would gain another extra point if your self-draw was from the back of the walls through a gong and not from any flowers. In the very rare scenario where you gong multiple times in succession to draw your winning tile, you would add a staggering 8 points to your win. Both of these on top of your original self-draw point. If another player gongs a tile that you need to win, you can actually steal this gong and win with an extra point. As you can see in this example, the player to my right gongs a 7 of bamboo, which completes my hand, so I stole it. Finally, if you win off the last tile in the wall or the last discard, you would also gain an extra point, known as Hoi Dai Lao Yu. Alright, let's talk about tiles. Specifically the honor tiles that you so casually discard during a base game. These actually give you valuable points. Let's start with the dragon tiles. For every identical triplet that you make with the dragons, you will gain 1 point. Simple. The wins, however, are not as simple. And to explain those, we're going to change the camera angle. Great. This, if I can keep it in frame, is a marker that tells you who the very first dealer was. If you win as dealer, then you get to stay as dealer. If not, the dealership moves on to the person on your right. Once every player has been dealer at least once, you would have to update this. This is the wind indicator. The windicator, if you will. It has all 4 directions on it, and every time you change it, it should indicate the next wind in sequence. East, south, west, north, so that everyone knows what the prevailing table wind is. Each player also has their own seat wind, which is dependent on their relative position to the dealer. If you're the dealer, your seat wind is always east, and going anti-clockwise from the dealer, south, west, and north will follow. You gain a point for every identical triplet you have matching your seat wind or the prevailing table wind. For example, the prevailing table wind here is east, so any player here with an identical triplet of east would gain a point for it. To explain the seat wind further, let's have a look at the second player's hand. As you can see, they have identical triplets of both south and north. They would gain a point for their south triplet as they are in the south seat, but not the north triplet as it's neither their seat wind nor the table wind. Let's have a look at the dealer's hand. They have an identical triplet of west. This would score them no points in this scenario. They would only gain a point if the prevailing table wind was also west. Let's change this back. If instead of west, their triplet was east, then they would gain 2 points. This is because the triplet matches both their seat wind and the prevailing table wind. You must have wondered at some point, what on earth are these flowers for? Much like the seat wind, each player also has their own flower number. 1 for east, 2 for south, 3 for west, and 4 for north. If you don't pick up any flowers throughout the game, you will gain 1 point. However, if you do pick up flowers, your points depend on which flower it is. If you pick up your own flower, you would still retain your 1 point, even if you had other people's flowers as well. Here are some other scenarios. If you had both your flowers, then you would have 2 points. If you collect all 4 tiles from the same set, you would also have 2 points. If you manage to collect 7 flowers, then that would be 3 points. And if somehow you collect all 8 flowers, that is 8 points. And now, the part that you've really been waiting for, let's go through the hands. All of them, from the smaller ones to the crazy rare special hands. But first, you may be familiar with this hand. Indeed, you may have even won games with this hand before. This is the chicken hand, and even though it's a completed hand, it is worth no points, I'm afraid, as it contains a mixture of both suits and triplet types. When we go through all the hands next, it's important not to get too bogged down on why certain hands are worth certain point values. Much like how you can't really break down and explain exactly why a touchdown in American football or a try in rugby is worth 6 points and 5 points respectively. These hands have a designated number of points assigned to them, and that's what they're worth. Starting us off is the common hand, or Peng Wu, comprised completely of consecutive triplets, besides, of course, its pair of eyes. It is worth 1 point. The common hand cannot have any identical triplets in it, which means the honor tiles can only be used as its eyes. Next, we have the all-triplet hand, or Dui Dui Wu, comprised completely of identical triplets, besides the eyes. This is worth 3 points. As you can see here, the honor tiles can be used for triplets as well as the eyes. This way, you can gain points from them. You may have noticed that in the hands we've seen so far, we've been mixing all 3 suits together. Circles, characters, and bamboo. Think of honor tiles as more of a supplementary suit. So what if you only had one of the 3 major suits in your hand? Well, that would lead to this mixed 1 suit hand, known as Wanyasik. This is also worth 3 points. Here, you can have both consecutive and identical triplets, unlike the previous 2 hands. It's called the mixed 1 suit hand because you still have honor tiles in it. If we bin these, and your hand is only made of tiles from 1 suit, then this would be the clean 1 suit hand, or Tengyasik, worth 7 points. We borrowed this next hand from Taiwanese Mahjong. The 7 pairs, or Liku Liku, consists of 7 unique pairs. Gongs don't count. Please note that not all places will recognize this hand, as it is not a traditional Hong Kong hand. With the concealed point baked in, it is worth 4 points. I introduced these hands first, as I believe they provide the foundations on top of which more valuable hands can be built. The majority of Mahjong hands have 2 key dimensions, structure and suit. Understanding these 2 dimensions will help you count points and build more valuable hands. When identifying the structure of your hand, you should ask, what type of triplets are there? If it's both consecutive and identical triplets, then the structure awards no points. If your triplets are all consecutive, then it has a common hand structure, worth 1 point. If the structure consisted of only identical triplets, then you would add 3 points. And finally, 4 points if your structure was all pairs. When it comes to the other dimension, the suit, you should ask 2 questions. Is there only 1 suit in my hand, or are there more? And are there any honor tiles in my hand? If you have more than 1 suit, you add 0 points. If your hand only has 1 suit but includes honor tiles, you add 3 points. And if your hand only has 1 suit without honor tiles, you add 7 points. Let's have a look at a few examples. How many points do you think this is? With both consecutive and identical triplets, no structure points here, but I only have 1 suit mixed with some honor tiles, so we add 3 points. The dragon triplet and the self-drawn winning tile also give me 1 point each, summing up to 5 points. What about this one? Here, despite my east triplet, neither my seat wind nor the prevailing table wind is east. However, I get 3 points for the all-identical triplet structure, and 3 more points for having only one suit with honor tiles. Having no flower brings the total up to 7 points. Okay, last one. In this example, I get 7 points for having only one suit without honor tiles. None of these are my seat's flowers though, but this does have a common hand structure, awarding 1 more point, providing a total of 8 points. Alright, enough of that boring strategy stuff. Let's move on to the special hands. This hand is called the Small Dragons, or Xiu Sam Yun. It consists of any hand with any 2 dragon triplets and 1 dragon pair. This is worth 5 points, and we do not double count the points for the dragon triplets again. This right side is worth 3 points, as there is only one suit in the hand. If we swap these out, this part would still be worth 3 points, as the structure is all identical triplets. However, if we had triplets of all 3 dragons, then this hand would be the Big Dragons, or Dai Sam Yun, with this part being worth 8 points. This hand is the Small Winds, or Xiu Sei Hei. It consists of any hand with any 3 wind triplets and 1 wind pair. This is worth 6 points, and again, we do not double count points for the wind triplets that we have. This right side is worth 3 points for having just one suit, but if we did this side would then be worth 6 points, as it is now an all triplet hand with one suit. If we had triplets of all 4 winds, then this hand would be the Big Winds, or Dai Sei Hei, worth 13 points. Does this hand look familiar? It is almost an all triplet hand, but if you were to collect all these triplets yourself without any pongs, this would be a self triplet hand, or kan kan wu. You can only win from 2 conditions. Either you win off someone discarding the tile you need to complete your eyes, not any of your triplets, or if you have 2 pairs to win from, you have to self-draw the winning tile. This is worth 8 points, with the all triplet and concealed points baked in. This is the all honor hand, or Jiasek. It consists of 4 identical triplets and a pair, entirely of honor tiles. This is worth 10 points, though you do not double count the 3 points for having all triplets. You do, however, add the points for any dragon triplets or any appropriate wind triplets. This next hand is the all terminals hand, or Yu Gao Pai. It consists of 4 identical triplets and a pair, this time entirely of terminal tiles, meaning 1s and 9s. This is worth 10 points, again without double counting the all triplet structure. Terminals are a bit special in Mahjong, so even if you had fewer terminal triplets, mixed in with some honor triplets, you would still gain 1 extra point on top of what your hand is originally worth, known as the mixed terminal hand. This is the 9 gates, or Gaoji Lin Wan. It's an insanely rare hand to achieve. It applies to any of the 3 suits, but this is what it looks like with circles. The hand must include 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9, 9, and must completely be concealed, meaning you can't take any discards. You'll notice that there are only 13 tiles here. It's called the 9 gates because from this setup, you can win with any of the 9 constituent tiles as your final tile. This hand is worth 10 points and does not double count points for concealed hand or for the clean 1 suit. The next ridiculous hand we have here, if we can fit it in the frame, is the all gong hand, or Sabat Lo Hon. This requires 4 gongs in your hand, plus a pair of eyes, regardless of suit. This is worth 13 points. Everybody, at some point, wants to achieve this next hand, the 13 Orphans, or Sapsam Yu. It includes 1 of each honor tile, as well as 1 of each terminal tile. To complete this, you will need an extra 1 of any of the constituent tiles to act as your eyes. This hand is worth 13 points. What makes this hand so difficult? Well, you have to collect all the tiles yourself, besides, of course, the final winning tile. For this next hand, let me describe a scenario. You are the dealer, and these are your opening tiles. You arrange them in order to start playing. And then, oh, you have a completed hand. Even though it's a chicken hand, it doesn't matter. You have just been blessed with a heavenly hand, or 天武, worth 13 points. What happens though if you're not the dealer? No problem. Let's say this is your opening hand. You arrange it and realize, oh, you're only one tile away from a completed hand, even if it's a chicken hand. The dealer then throws out the very first discard, and it so happens to be the tile you need to win. This is an earthly hand, or 地武, also worth 13 points. And that's all, folks. It's a lot to take in, I know. But the point is not to force these hands, tiles, and actions all the time, in every game. Rather, the skill is in having these concepts in your back pocket, and utilizing them when the time is right. Many of these special hands are ridiculously rare anyway. A good player is able to identify when a situation is opportune, and capitalize on it. Personally, I find the advanced points games a lot more fun and strategic, as the base games can be very luck reliant. As you can see, this video took quite a bit of time and thought. So if you would like, subscribe, and share this video, it would be much appreciated. Finally, I hope you all have an auspicious Year of the Dragon.